Alright guys, welcome to this very special episode with Sonia from WatermelonBlock, and it's a very special episode. You see we have a professional production going on here, and the things we're going to discuss is number one, the state of markets today in cryptocurrency. Everyone is wondering what is going on, where is the price going currently. Well, Watermelon, they do sentiment analysis, they can predict markets, and then we're going to talk about more exactly what they do besides market predictions and how their sentiment analysis really works. So Sonia, very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very good to have you here. And by the way, guys, leave questions in the comments. If you have any questions, leave in the comments. The Watermelon team will come and answer them for you going forward. So, very welcome to the show. As I said, currently many people are very depressed. They open up their Blockfolio and it's all red. Sonia, where are we going? You work with Watermelon, you do sentiment analysis. What is the current state of the market and how important is sentiment analysis to predict the markets?
So you've raised a really good point, which is the fact that people open up different apps every day to find out how the market is going. One of the first things they might look at is how the market is going right now, but that doesn't necessarily say what's going to happen to the market tomorrow. What are going to be all the decisions that the market makes? The next thing they'll do is go to some trusted media sources. And right now I've been really overwhelmed with, some negative articles that I'm seeing, and that can make me feel quite negative. But that doesn't necessarily...
Articles about cryptocurrencies,
correct.
Bitcoin and so
yeah,
forth.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole market is feeling negative. Like when we think about, an entire market, all the people in the world or all the people who are interested in a particular cryptocurrency, when we see an article or we see a review or we see what one person we know thinks, that's like a tiny, tiny subset. The ability to really understand how the whole market is thinking and feeling about a particular cryptocurrency at scale was what we really wanted to do at WatermelonBlock. We wanted to say, for cryptocurrencies that we were thinking of trading, how does the whole market feel about that? And that's what WatermelonBlock does. So in order to understand the sentiment of the market, we take really large volumes of media and social media big data. We process them. We use the smartest AI in the world, which is IBM's Watson analytics, which we have a partnership with. And then we use our own proprietary technology to provide that in a really easy, actionable score. So when people open up the WatermelonBlock app, they're able to see a ranking of the top 500 cryptocurrencies with a score against it to say how that sentiment has moved in real time so that they can then make a decision. They might say, oh, I can see that this currency is going up, but then when they go into WatermelonBlock, they see, okay, people are saying some negative things. I need to take this into my decision making. Or it could be the opposite.
But the question is really how effective is that? Because you have people doing technical analysis, trying to find patterns in the price charts. You have people doing fundamentals, really trying to understand the big picture. And so sentiment analysis, do you have any data on is it significant or not? Because we might think it is significant, but at the same time, for example, cryptocurrencies are usually quite small markets when you compare it to traditional markets. And so even though you can analyze what people are saying online, you have one whale having hundreds of millions of dollars, and that whale can manipulate the entire scene. So how significant is sentiment analysis really, would you say?
Okay, I'd say the first pointer that sentiment analysis is really significant is the whole field of behavioral economics. So economics is something that I'm really passionate about, especially the work of Dr. Richard Tallin. He won the Nobel Prize for Behavioral Economics last year. A lot of his research points and of a lot of behavioral economics economists to the idea that if we're going to predict a market, especially one that is highly driven by the way that people think and feel, like a speculative market, then really looking at lots of trends and historical indicators isn't going to be that accurate. I think a really good example of that was actually last year with what happened with Bitcoin. People saw the market moving up and up and up, and traditional technical financial analysis of the way that currency was tracking didn't help people predict where it was going to go next. Really, it was more of the emotional things behind the market that were making the prices move. So the word hodl, for example, played a huge role. People seeing that people were going to hold this, then knowing that this was something that people were interested in, people were feeling positive about Bitcoin, drove more people into the market. And that's why we saw some of that upward pressure on those prices. Real behavioral economics at work. They say that a human from a psychological perspective without emotions can't make decisions. So I think that was really at play last year
But
in
at
the
the
Bitcoin
same
market.
time, it's not that in January suddenly everyone started using the word hodl. It's not that you saw a strong negativity in the market. So would you say that the market affects sentiment or sentiment affects market? Because this is something very important for traders. I mean, and cause and effect relationship.
Yes.
Because coming back to your example about the winter, it's not, at least I personally didn't feel that suddenly there was a lot of negative news and that caused the market to go down, or that sentiment in chat forums that caused the market to go down. For me, it felt more that the market went down and then the sentiment followed.
So it's really a feedback loop, and I suppose the most important part, which is what WatermelonBlock's trying to address, is being able to see this at scale. So if you and I were to talk about a particular cryptocurrency right now, we would be talking about all of the sources that we know about, but we don't know everything on the internet, and we don't have the power of AI to analyze all of that and to provide an aggregate of that. Then also in terms of the ability to predict, it's really about saying, okay, well, if people are feeling positive, there's probably going to be some lag between when they might move to change on a decision. So for example, they might be seeing a lot of positive things. We might see that everyone's feeling quite positive about a certain cryptocurrency, but that may not mean that they're going to action a trade straight away. Then we may see a feedback loop in the market where a sudden change happens. So perhaps a few people have started buying, the price has gone up, but then suddenly we start seeing a lot more people talking positively. Then that movement, that velocity of the change in the sentiment is an indicator that there will probably be a change in the trading behavior as well.
Mm-hmm. And how do you work against manipulation? Because if I have a cryptocurrency and I want all Watermelon users to buy it, I would try to somehow make it positive online. So, do some posts, maybe have bots writing positive keywords that your AI maybe picks up. So do you have this in mind, and how do you work against that? How do you prevent false signals from the market?
Yeah, so I suppose there is a lot of market manipulation that can happen when you're looking at a highly digital world in which we live and a digital asset such as cryptocurrency. So one example that you brought up before is whales. You'll have one small agent that makes a really, really big effect. And then another, which you've just brought up, is someone disseminating, kind of artificial news en masse. Despite the fact that these are both really manipulations, the point is they're still moving the market. So for example, if a lot of positive hype is being brought out about a certain cryptocurrency, that is going to tend to affect the market, and the owners of that cryptocurrency are usually going to benefit from that hype. The same way that if one whale or a small group do a huge trade, that's going to still create a huge effect and an upward pressure on price, and that's going to be beneficial for people who have that currency. Either way, WatermelonBlock will be able to show that behavior at play in real time. So without people having to sift through lots of news websites or go through lots of forums, they literally see it changing as it's happening. So in the example of the media, they would see that all of that hype's coming through. But the great thing about WatermelonBlock is it doesn't just show the actionable insight in terms of the sentiment score. You're able to click into it, see how the sentiment's changed across different channels, click into them and see real-time examples of how people are using those keywords and how they're talking, how their tone is happening. So for example, if I saw that there was a new cryptocurrency and it was blowing up in sentiment, and I go online and I see that it's actually only Twitter that's driving that positive sentiment, then I can go in with WatermelonBlock and see in Twitter what people are saying, and I can actually see if maybe that's being driven by some sort of bot behavior. But at the same time, if there's that much positive sentiment in the market, that's an indicator that the market is going to start feeling positive about that.
But at the same time, I think the logical question is, if you have this wonderful tool that can give people an edge in the market, for example, if I have Watermelon, I have this edge other people don't have, why don't you just use it yourself and become billionaires in trading? Why do you release this tool to the public? Because something else to keep in mind is the more people have this tool, the less effective it might become, because suddenly everyone is this smart and everyone has this edge in the market. And because markets usually are a zero-sum game, you have this cancellation effect. If suddenly everyone can see and predict the markets using this tool, it might lose its effectiveness. So how would you, what is your reasoning? Why not just use it for yourself and not release it?
So I think there are two questions there. Yeah, one is why we've decided to share, and the other is will this become less effective over time? So in terms of why we decided to share, I wonder why the inventor of blockchain decided to share their technology, and if they hadn't, where would we be sitting today? For myself and my co-founder Elliot, sharing things with communities is really important to us. Elliot's background is in creating lifestyle experiences. He has a really large festival in Australia that he's run for 10 years, which is a huge performance of music and art that he shares with thousands and thousands of people, and really has changed a lot of people's lives. And it was in that same community that a lot of people were trading in cryptocurrency. And when we conceived this product, it was just so natural that we wanted to share it with other people. For myself in particular, I think I take for granted sometimes that I'm a female that's worked in technology for quite a while, but not everyone is like myself. Not everyone's studied economics and worked in financial services and worked in technology. Not every female investor, but that's not to say that half of the world doesn't want to get involved in trading cryptocurrencies. So creating a product that makes cryptocurrency and the market really easy to understand, to make trading decisions much more easy to action, to make it fun and friendly and really simple, that for us was really the achievement. While we could go and make ourselves really rich, that's not really what drives us as a company. So that was where that decision came from. Also using our sentiment analysis, the second phase of our technology development is creating an AI trading bot. So that'll be a product where people can invest and it makes trades on their behalf. So it will be building a lot of wealth, but on behalf of a really large group of individuals, and especially to make trading easier for those who are a bit more scared to jump in. In terms of your question of whether or not the tool will become less effective over time.
The more people have access to it and
exactly.
Use it.
So people have access currently to all of the technical analysis data. They can see all of the charts in terms of how things move, and that's just part and parcel of the market. In terms of the availability of media these days, it's huge. There's obviously going to be an effect because there will be a large group of people who will move based on what they're seeing, but then that will also have a feedback loop in terms of what they see in the app. But that's really presenting the reality of the market and making the market a lot more transparent. So it will be really interesting to see how WatermelonBlock changes the market, but it's undeniably necessary in the future that we're able to see how the whole market is thinking and feeling about these really important cryptocurrencies.
And so more practically, how does the product work? And is the product really around currently? Can people try it already, and how can they do it?
So we do have a beta version. We're currently creating a test group that's really suitable and across a different range of categories of people. As I said, female investors is a really big one, millennials is a really big one. So that's the first phase of our app. People can read about that in the white paper as well and see a little demo of the wireframes. So that process is taking the big data from the media and social media sets, grabbing a lot of data on different cryptocurrencies, processing that using IBM's Watson AI, the one that we have the official partnership with, and then also us applying our own proprietary algorithms to provide sentiment analysis at the end so that the data is really easy and understandable. So 2 layers that we use to make it really simple for the investor. One is that analysis to make sure that the score is something that they can understand straight away, and the other is in terms of the user experience. We're a very design-centric company. A lot of us come from like a consumer-facing and design background, and personally, as someone that's analysed technology for quite a long time, I was at a firm previously, an international firm, it's the simple technologies that are the most disruptive. When you think about Airbnb or Uber or Facebook or Apple, they provided really complex things to the world, but they gave them in the way that it was so simple that your mum or your little cousin could just pick them up and use them straight away. And that's the exact thing that we've done with our design.
Something very interesting is your partnership with IBM Watson.
Yes.
And so there is parts of IBM AI infrastructure that is available to everyone who pays is on-demand service. Is it that what you're using, or is it some other special partnership beyond what is available to everyone who is interested?
Yeah, so there are a couple more layers to what we're using, especially in terms of our AI API integrations and what we can access in terms of publicly available data, but also the processing power which we're using and the ability to provide insights on that large scale in real time and applying our own analysis to that as well. We're using a commercial tool for that, like the commercial version of IBM's Watson.
All right, so we discussed the cryptocurrency applications on this and how people can use Watermelon in cryptocurrency markets. What other applications do we have of this sentiment technology? Maybe in business, in other industries. How would you use it, and do you use it?
Yeah, so the capitalization of our technology was really important for us, making sure that it's doing a lot of work and that the product is being used in a lot of different markets. Volume is really important in terms of technology adoption. So the first thing that we're creating is the WatermelonBlock app, which is all about cryptocurrency sentiment analysis. And then the second phase, which is that AI-based trading and having that investment portfolio. But then another really useful application has come out of this demand from exchanges. So a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges have expressed interest in being able to show not just how the currencies are performing in real time, but also how the sentiment is performing. So us providing third-party access to our data, that's the Watermelon Seed product. But then there's also our ability to provide sentiment analysis to the broader B2B market. So for example, Nike as a brand may want to know how their products are performing in real time and how their brand's performing. Right now, they're probably going out to the market sending surveys, or they're probably doing some form of data scraping and then doing a more old-fashioned style of quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis to that. What WatermelonBlock is able to do is the exact same thing that we do for cryptocurrencies, but provide real-time sentiment data to a brand so that any brand that has, their marketing across different channels is able to say, how are people feeling? How are they feeling across the different channels? Which channel should I be focusing on? Where should I be spending my marketing budget? So our volume estimates for how the product will be adopted across these channels is quite large for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And so WatermelonBlock for cryptocurrency, then Watermelon Seed for exchanges. So I log into Binance, for example, and they have real-time prices and real-time sentiment.
Yeah, exactly.
And how are those partnerships going currently? Are exchanges interested in this, or is it hard to pitch?
No. So actually, we'd always thought that we could provide third-party access to our data, but it was really when we were at Consensus at the blockchain conference in New York that we had a lot of exchanges talking to us and saying it would be really, really good if we could provide this sentiment data. Actually, there are also a lot of incumbents who are moving into the cryptocurrency space. So like a few traditional exchanges in different countries that are more like stock exchanges want to start having cryptocurrencies, and some big firms. And they also said the ability to show the sentiment with that is really important to them. So it was just a no-brainer for us that Watermelon Seed needed to happen.
Mm-hmm. And so we discussed the applications. What about the team? What kind of competences do you have? Do you have any superstar advisor or someone else you can brag to us about? And how will that team take the product forward with your roadmap you currently have? So
the key players in our team, there's Elliot, obviously, who's our main founder with his entrepreneurial background and his user experience design background, has been the perfect person to incept and create this product. Our CTO, Dan Shani, he has a background in technology. He's been running a really large IT services company in Australia for a number of years. He works really closely with our head of analytics, who's been running an analytics practice for 25 years, especially with background in the marketing space. What I bring to the team tends to be more in the financial services, fintech, disruption space, understanding products that really work in the market and how they need to meet regulatory and consumer angles. And then we also have a lot of ex-crypto traders in our team as well, who help us design the product so that it's fit for market, and have also helped us create a strategy for how we're going to make sure that we stay in front of lots of cryptocurrency traders.
And looking at the roadmap currently have a closed beta period. You mentioned that you have trials.
Yeah, we're going to be starting them soon.
And what is the roadmap for the coming year? And beyond that, where will WatermelonBlock be in 1-2 years?
Yeah, so the first phase of the WatermelonBlock app is going to be released this year. So that's the being able to see the AI-based sentiment insights. The trading ability will be coming next year because there's a lot more regulation that goes into that, working with different regulators in jurisdictions to roll out that product in a way that it can really engage the market. The Watermelon Analytics product will be released early next year, and the same with the Watermelon Seed product. In terms of more of our data intense activities, because in a data-driven age, information is really, really valuable. And our ability to predict the market definitely comes from us having a big store of data on how the market's moved and how sentiment's been working. So we have a lot of plans to have physical data stores and to be creating our own data warehouse so that we can start doing more of our own analysis on that large volume of data. So that's kind of in our long-term plan over more of like a 3 to 5 year horizon.
All right, the next logical question is, of course, the blockchain and token. Does this project need a token? Does it need to be decentralized? Is it even decentralized? That is exactly what we're going to find out right now. Sonia, tell us about what you are using the token for and what people will be using it for when they buy it.
Okay, I think a great place to start with that is what you were saying before. Is it decentralized? Does it need to be decentralized? So the concept of what technology needs to be versus what the market actually needs is something that we consider quite heavily at WatermelonBlock. Obviously, the first computer that was ever built managed to end a war, whereas the first blockchain ever built has produced Bitcoin, which has been great, but that hasn't necessarily been ending a war. So for us, creating something that was completely addressing a market need is very important. And for us, it's more about that purpose and answering a market question so that it's answering demand rather than using a technology for the sake of it. So we have this intersection between blockchain and AI. Where we're using AI is obviously the processing of the sentiment analysis. Where we're using blockchain is to underpin the way that people interact with all of the WatermelonBlock products. So first of all, it creates a really useful tool for when people are accessing each of them in terms of paying for the product. So that's the first part. The second is also in terms of making that a seamless payment process. So when people are usually using an investment app, what will dictate whether or not they adopt it, and this is more in terms of the fintech market, like large scale consumers, is how easy it is to invest with that investment app. So when I was talking before about how some consumers find it daunting to move into cryptocurrency, the whole process of verifying themselves with an exchange, being able to trade between different currencies, knowing which accounts they can and can't use, that tends to be where the hard part is. They fall into this adoption dip. So for us, using our own blockchain means that we can provide our own payment options. We can make it a much smoother process in terms of what options we give to the consumer and always be using their feedback. So that's one reason that we created our own blockchain. The second reason was to inoculate against shocks in the market. So what you were saying before, if a lot of people start using WatermelonBlock to get their insights, we're going to see a lot of different, more interesting trading activity that we might not have seen before. In order to action trades on people's behalf in that second phase of the product, we need to be able to go through currencies that aren't going to have huge changes in them. So for example, the moment you use a fiat currency, it can experience a lot of volatility that's outside of our control. The same thing happens with the really large cryptocurrencies as well. We see how much movement there is in them day to day. Using our own blockchain-based token means that we have more ability to prevent that sort of volatility because of the purpose in which it's being used, and also because we know more of the metrics behind it and what's actually changing that movement. So that was the second reason that we created our own blockchain. In terms of the decentralized part, providing a decentralized blockchain wasn't an important part of our technology. That's not how it is revolutionizing a market. The place where it's really revolutionizing it is providing decentralized insights. Right now, insights that people have to make their trading decisions are really quite opaque. It's based on people that they trust, people that they know, people that are recommended to them, all very emotion-based mechanisms, but not necessarily from a broad enough perspective that they can actually see the aggregate of that. So for us, stripping away, one-off expert opinions and stripping back, what one group of friends thinks versus another, and being able to provide an aggregation of the whole market is really how that decentralized insight is provided.
So you mentioned decentralized insights, and that is what is important. But for that to work, it needs to be running on a decentralized infrastructure, because otherwise I can just, if I'm able to affect the information that comes from the blockchain, suddenly the decentralized insights can be heavily manipulated. And so what kind of technology have you chosen for a blockchain in order to still achieve this level of security that is needed for us to trust these decentralized insights, and so that I cannot, for example, change it by having a lot of hash power, or I'm able to trick the blockchain and get false data into it?
So the blockchain and the AI are used separately. The blockchain enables how people interact with the products in terms of their payment through the WatermelonBlock token. All of the big data and the big data analysis is happening using our proprietary technology and Watson AI, the IBM product. So interestingly, when we think decentralized, we think that decentralized needs a blockchain to work. But in terms of us providing decentralized insights, it's actually that ability to not just rely on a small set of data, but to actually process big data. Because the moment that you're processing big data and you're looking at this really large scale aggregate, that's the point where it becomes the opinions of many, not just the opinions of a few. So you're removing bias. All of these things that we associate with blockchain is what we're doing for our data analytics using AI and using big data.
Mm-hmm. And more specifically, what kind of tech stack have you chosen? Is it Ethereum, or what kind of blockchain?
So in terms of our blockchain, that's underpowering the whole ecosystem, that's the NEM blockchain. So we chose NEM because our product's obviously going to be a high volume use product. So choosing a blockchain that had really firm security protocols that was able to be a closed blockchain as necessary and was suitable for a financial services application was a really important choice. That was also the scalability of that product was another reason that we chose it, and a reason why we also chose IBM's Watson product as well. So I think when working with regulators and when releasing a product to such a large scale market, such as the consumer fintech market, making sure that all of the technology stack underpinning that is trustworthy and scalable is really important, and that drove all of our technology investment decisions and what we've built as well.
All right, let's get into the ICO details. So you are currently in pre-sale. How is that going, and what is the plan for future crowd sale, public sale, and private sale? Did you have a private sale yet, or did you only do pre-sale?
We have had a private sale stage as well. Now we're in pre-sale. We're in round one of our pre-sale. There's been a lot of interest so far. Our Telegram has absolutely gone off. It's been really intense, but really good, and such a great opportunity to start talking to people about the product. Then our ICO goes public in August. So it'll be really exciting to see what happens then. For anyone who's watching this, I would recommend that they get into the Telegram channel. Myself, Elliot, and other people in the team are in there regularly, so feel free to ask any questions.
All right, Sonia, thank you so much for coming onto the show and explaining your project. And guys, feel free to ask more questions in the comments, and WatermelonBlock will answer them and explain more. And as usual, I'll see you all very, very soon. Have a great day, and goodbye, guys. Goodbye, goodbye.